The Magna Carta is considered by many to be the most significant document in Western history. Magna Carta means the Great Charter, and what it really does is it provides the basic rights that we have as citizens in the Western world. The right to trial by jury or punishment that is proportionate to the crime, no taxation without representation, habeas corpus, and so forth.
We decided to proceed using a lot of expertise we gained working on the re-encasement of the Constitution, the Declaration. Probably fewer than 24 documents around the world have been sealed in airtight environment.
What's important now that it's just come off exhibit is that we want to document its current condition. And we're working with a report that we wrote in 2008 that will give us a nice baseline for comparison.
There are 17 copies of the Magna Carta. 15 are in British institutions.
It's still quite flat.
One is in the Australian Parliament, and one is in private hands.
Yeah, let's pack it up.
I had heard it was for sale. I went to see it the night before the sale occurred, and I heard from the curator that it was very likely that it was going to be bought by somebody who lived outside the United States. So I decided that I would go back the next day and try to buy it and really provide it as a gift to the National Archives so that the American people could see it.
With things that are reactive to changes in humidity, such as parchment, also paintings, those two particular types of artifacts always need time to acclimate to the surroundings. We worked for a number of weeks making sure that the temperature and humidity were kept constant in the workspace. When we opened the encasement, the first thing that we wanted to focus on was whether or not the change in humidity visibly affected the parchment. It did not. Not wearing gloves is the first thing that most people notice.
See, I feel like it's pretty strong. I mean, it's phenomenal condition for its age.
And what we tell them is that when you wear gloves, it reduces the tactile sense. So if you have something that's very fragile, it's the safest method of handling.
The parchment is so susceptible or vulnerable to changes in the relative humidity and temperature. When it's on the animal, you know, it's aligned and it's under tension. And then it comes off and it gets prepared or treated because that's not a natural alignment. When it gets exposed to moisture, the collagen fibers, they have some memory that they want to realign. When we talk about mapping the document, we're basically outlining specific features because when we do the treatment and it's such a living document, it will change a little bit. There was a lot of distortion. If that was tension caused by the mends, we wanted to release it. And the only way we could figure that out was by removing the mends.
There were 9 old repairs on the document.
Sometimes you discover things trapped in the adhesive.
Looks like someone was wearing a black sweater when they...
What we wanted to do was to remove all of them so that we could flatten the parchment evenly and also get rid of old adhesive residues that had been left over from a previous campaign.
Minimal moisture is critical, so we used a mild enzymatic solution to soften the adhesive. It's a trace amount that's actually in contact with the document.
We take adhesive samples to go and have them analytically tested so that we know exactly what we're dealing with. Removing the old repairs can be very difficult. It's very time consuming. We do it very carefully under the microscope and use minimal moisture. That was not easy.
When you look at the Magna Carta, there's some drip marks on the right side and you can't read anything. Using a special camera that can focus the ultraviolet radiation, we were able to actually see what inked letters had been present in those areas. So kind of magically, what was lost suddenly is visible again.
When we choose the paper, we're looking for characteristics that are compatible with the material that we're mending or repairing. I outlined the shape of the loss and I made my repair paper slightly larger. And then that edge got thinned. And that's what gets attached to the document with adhesive.
There was a pretty significant loss here, and so to stabilize it, we put the fill in. The effect that I was trying to achieve was to just make it look similar to the surrounding parchment, which with these watercolors is fairly easy to do. None of the end painting comes in contact with the document. It's confined only to the fill. And then to reintegrate the loss so that it's not the first thing that you see when you look at the record, we just lightly tone with watercolor.
It's still very visible that it's there, but it's like camouflage.
Conservation's art, science, and history all rolled into one. The final step was humidification and flattening of the parchment.
And then we're going to leave it under restraints for 3 months or so. After 3 months, we'll take the weight off. Our anticipation is that it will remain in pretty much the same configuration.